Ngoc story. On the top of a high mountain in the Chu Bo Da region, there is a green cliff that looks exactly like a cute, adorable baby riding on an elephant. How long has the cliff been standing there? No one knows. I only know that since my grandfather's life, my father's life, a long time ago, that cliff has existed. High above, very soft golden rays of sunlight, clear raindrops, bright as jade, take turns bathing the cliff. Stone. And the wind from the sea in the east, from the high mountains in the west, gently whispered, telling the cliffs many strange stories of faraway countries. Only the birds that fly the highest and furthest can set foot here. In front of the beautiful scene of clouds and mountains, the bird blinked and tilted its head to look. Then the bird stretched its neck, raised its best voice and sang fairy songs to the cliff, the most beautiful and precious songs of birds. Just like that, month after month, year after year, the soft voice of the wind, the singing of birds, seemed to slowly blend into each grain of rock, penetrating deeply into the small child-shaped cliff at the top of the mountain. One morning, the sky is clear, the wind is gentle, the mountains and forests are spread out and silent. The human-shaped cliff suddenly shuddered slightly, stirred slightly, and then slowly transformed into a baby made of flesh and bones, beautiful as ever. The baby stood quietly, eyes wide open, looking at the mountain, looking at the clouds, smiling happily, then leisurely walking down the mountain. That morning, at the foot of the mountain, the villagers, in groups and groups, carried baskets on their shoulders and arms in their hands. Basket, busy harvesting rice, cracking corn. Suddenly, from the far forest, deer, muntjac, peacocks, pheasants, birds, wild boars, came in large herds. It's a forest cave. There has never been a year as violent as that year. The villagers panicked, grabbed sticks and ran to the east and west, craning their necks and screaming at the top of their lungs to chase away animals and birds, but to no avail. Everyone rushed into the forest again, hastily finished carrying rattan lines, went back to string them up, tie scarecrows, then knock on bells and whistles, but still to no avail. In the end, they had to abandon their fields and crops and run back to the village, searching for spears and crossbows. Absent people, birds with yellow and red feathers spread their wings and flew away, looking like a cloud of 5 colors. Sika deer, golden deer, herds of deer came straight and rushed into the fields. At that moment, the baby had just come down from the high mountain. Seeing that chaotic scene, the baby stood looking at the animals and smiled, waving his hands and playing with them. Seeing something strange, birds swooped down to the edge of the fields, raised their heads and looked up. Deer and yellow deer also retreated to the large thatched field. Looking suspicious, eyes wide open and insolent. Suddenly, the baby slowly opened his mouth and sang. Her singing echoes throughout the fields, mountains and forests. The singing is so beautiful, as captivating as fragrant flowers seducing yellow bees and white butterflies. Listening to that strange singing, flocks of peacocks, sparrows, herds of deer, boars, all forgot about badgers, lost the matter of destroying rice. They nodded, spread their wings, flapped their claws, and began to dance rhythmically. Singing leisurely, they dance. Slowly, singing loudly, they dance quickly. The singing was low, they closed their eyes and nodded like people in a drunken stupor. When the villagers holding spears and slings ran out to the fields, heard the singing, and saw that scene, everyone was shocked and amazed. The animals continued to dance passionately, until they realized that the villagers were coming with spears and slings. They were startled, flapped their wings and flew away, jostling each other and running away. The villagers had no choice but to surround them. Baby, as happy as meeting a fairy. They scrambled to ask where the baby came from and where he learned to have such a magical singing voice. But the baby just laughed. The villagers asked him what his name was, and he also just laughed. Her hearty laughter filled the hearts of the villagers, and her bright smile brightened her pretty face. The villagers immediately invited the baby back to the village. They prepare to light a fire, build a hut. In the past, in the Central Highlands, villagers often built huts for artists to sing to show their respect and admiration, for the baby to sing. The most beautiful girl in the village found the baby so adorable, so she named her Ngoc. Hearing that name, she nodded, then smiled again. The villagers also laughed, happy to have chosen a beautiful name for the strangely beautiful baby. That night, the moon was very bright. Ngoc sat among the villagers and took the cake. Singing. I sing heroic songs for people to listen to. The moon sets, the stars dim, but no one wants to go back to sleep. They sat like that until the golden sunlight shone on the fields. From then on, Ngoc lived with the villagers. Her singing made everyone work tirelessly, dispelling all boredom, making the fields full of rice, fields full of flowers, and forests and mountains blooming with flowers. But one day, when Ngoc was working with the villagers working on the fields, suddenly saw a fire burning in all four directions. Then the sound of gongs and drums resounded. There were people wearing red turbans, sitting naked on horseback, riding like the wind, their red cloth tied across their chests. In one hand, they hold a torch, in the other they hold ripe chili peppers, and a bronze ring. In ancient times, those who went to announce war carried torches and chili peppers to symbolize urgency, and held a ring to symbolize a call for solidarity. The group of people and horses galloped from one village to another. The command of Mo Dao, chief in charge of a region, echoed throughout the people. Bandits are coming. Whoever loves their mother or father, quickly come out and fight. Hearing the news, the villagers immediately abandoned their work and rushed back to the village. The young men all held crossbows and spears tightly, ready to help Mo Dao. The two sides fought. Ngoc opened her eyes wide to see that scene. I slowly backed away and climbed up a mountain ledge. And suddenly, there was a humming, melodious singing voice. At first, the singing was still drowned in the sound of iron and steel hitting each other. But gradually, the sound of steel subsided, giving way to singing. Ngoc's singing calls out not to go robbers, go with your wife and children to pick sweet vegetables, then sleep by the warm fire at night. Wake up in the morning following the sun. Hearing the singing voice blowing like a cool breeze, the robbers stopped. Again, standing as stunned as a statue, standing still, as if swallowing every word of the song, the weapon slipped from his hand and fell to the ground without knowing it. Then slowly, they fell down, sleeping soundly like the dead. Mo Dao was full of praise for Ngoc. Mo Dao rewarded Ngoc with 100 golden elephant tusks, 100 do ba, ancient terracotta vases, which were very precious and precious, 100 servants. But Ngoc just smiled and shook his head. She and the villagers returned to the fields, singing loudly in the morning for relatives to hear. After a few days, the villagers suddenly could not see Ngoc anymore. I left the village, alone following the old road up the mountain. The villagers rushed to look for him, but could not find him. They waited from sunrise to sunset, from spring to summer, from year to year, but still did not see Ngoc return. The villagers told each other that Ngoc had returned to the mountains, turned into stone like before. From then on, the season of yellow rose blooms, purple rose blooms, white peng flower blooms, and pink rose blooms, names of beautiful flowers that often bloom by the stream, on the fields of the people of the Central Highlands, the village girls often pointing to those flowers and singing, "Wildflowers bloom by the stream, petals shaped like pink hearts. They race to bloom," to praise the singing of dear Ngoc. Everyone believes that Ngoc will return as a human, return to the villagers, and sing magically amid the peaceful and beautiful mountains and forests. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.